Hello. Um, this is my ranking of the Narnia books. Sorry about the start now on the screen. I don't know why that's there. Um, yeah, so you can see because I've tried to take a picture of the series before. It just shows the last place is Prince Caspian. I was say before that doesn't mean I don't like Prince Caspian, because I do a lot. Um, the thing is, all seven Narnia books, these are possibly my seven favorite books. Like maybe like The Hobbit or one of the Lord of the Rings. Some of the Lord of the Rings might be more than a little more than some of the ones that are lower down. But it's still these are all seven amazing books. But also I like some more than others. So some have to give them in last place. Prince Caspian being in last place does not mean anything bad against Prince Caspian. It's more means something good about the ones above it. Um, I don't know. I just don't find as many of the scenes as interesting. Though it still has a lot of the feel of all the Narnia books. I like there's something always really cool about the scene where they're in like forest and they first enter Narnia. I don't know why, but it was like thick forest. And they go into the treasure chambers, and it just seems like a place that would be really cool to be. And then the story starts. We get to hear about how Narnia has been taken over by the Telmarines, and there's just a lot of great action in the book. Like, of course, action isn't as good in the book as it is in the movie. Well, the action in the book is still good, and I can still imagine it in my head as a good fight battle in the movie. Um, so there's just a lot of great scenes in this book. It's still a great book, even if it's in last place. Number 6, we have The Magician's Nephew. Now, this one is great for world building because we get to see here first about the Western Wild of Narnia, well, second about the Western Wild of Narnia, but also about completely other worlds. This is the one that has the most scenes in our world, and it used to be my least favorite, but I started to like it more. Charm, Charn is a really sorry I called it Charm because the stupid version that I made for stupid stories it was called Charm. Um, Charn is a really interesting place. I really would like to hear more about that. And unfortunately, I don't really want to hear about it from anyone other than George Lucas, C.S. Lewis. And you know she's dead. But it would be interesting to hear more about Charn. Um, and let's see what other worlds there would be. Um, through the holes. It's it's just a really interesting book. I love hearing about how Narnia started. Um, yeah, so it's just overall, this one, the best word to describe this is just interesting. It's a very interesting book. Um, at number 5, we have The Horse and His Boy. This one is, again, this is also really good for world building, but this time, world building of the southern lands, of Kellerman and Archenland, and the desert. Is is the desert part of Kellerman? I'm not sure if it is or not. Um, or is it just part of nowhere and it's just the desert? Um, so again, this one, all three of the bottom ones are a little just not quite as interesting as the top 4. A little scenes that are slower. I used to when I was younger. I found the scene where like these only been my bottom 3, but I think when I was younger it was Magician's Nephew last, then Horseman's Boy, then Prince Caspian. I can't remember if Horseman's Boy, Prince Caspian kind of switched around sometimes. Um, but I found the scene where Aravis and Lasseroline were in the Tisrock's behind the Tisrock's house listening to him talk. I found that scene really boring. I don't find it boring now though. I found it more interesting. But this is one I've read the most out of all. I've read this entire series like 6 times or something, 6 or 7. I've read this one like at least 10 times because I was planning on making a movie from it. And I wanted to learn a lot about it. Then nothing came of that, but I would like to make a movie out of all 7 of these eventually. That's just since not only is not all 7 of them have had movies made out of them, and the ones that have, the movies were either really great adaptations, but not that great effects like the BBC versions, or they had great effects and were still really fun to watch, but they weren't that great of adaptations and didn't have any of the special feel that the books had. Those would be the Disney ones. Um, yeah, but this one is, I think I might have skipped that chapter 1 or 2 of my 10 reads, but yeah, it's not as bad as it used to be. Really, the only problem I have with it now is that I always wanted to know what Lasseroline was good, what funny thing Lasseroline was going to tell Erebus when Erebus told her to be quiet and we talked about her wild jokes. Though knowing Lasseroline, it might not even be that funny. So yeah, it was interesting to hear about Calormen and stuff. A story about during when the Pevensies were ruling as kings in Narnia. So yeah, this was definitely a very interesting book. I think I like it more than a little more than just Nephew, is because it happened. This is the only one that happens entirely in Narnia. So there's a Nephew. Even though I like the scenes in our world, there's because they feel like having so much take place in our world connects more. I'm not sure which one I like more, Rich Nephew or Horse's Boy. It might be Rich Nephew, honestly. I'm not sure. I would say I have to reread them, but I just reread them. Because I also first thing about the scene where Diggory gives his mother the apple and the mother finally gets, like, well again. That was a really, like, sweet scene. So again, I'm not sure. All I know is that, yeah, they're close. Okay, number 4. This one people might not like this, but number 4 had Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I know. Why is Lion, the Witch, and number 4? It's so good. I agree. Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe was one of the best pieces of literature that has ever been written. But that's just how good the Narnia series is that C.S. Lewis somehow managed to, in my opinion, top himself 3 times after that. Again, there's just so much special. Again, this one might even have the most out of all of them. This is the first one, the special field Narnia books. This was my first introduction to like real high fantasy. The only book before that I read that were like really good adventure was the Cooper Kids series, and while those were really fun, and I still I actually those are also some that I might like a little more than some of the Narnia books. So some of the better ones that I might like a little more. Some of the less great Narnia books. They're pretty close also. But probably my second favorite series. Even though Lord of the Rings are my favorite movies, I think the Lord of the Rings movies were actually better than the books, which is one of the few times you can say that about a movie. But aside from that, this is the book was my first introduction to a real like fantasy story, and it was great. I loved it so much. Then I kept reading it, and then the other ones, some of them I liked even more. This one just has so many great scenes. The beginnings, like Lucy finding the wardrobe, is so like magical and mysterious when she opens his wardrobe and finds, this other world. And with a fawn in it and stuff. There's just so much, and there's so much great scenes in this. But there are 3 that I somehow like even more. In 3rd place we have the Silver Chair. This used to be my second favorite, but I put it in 3rd now, not because I like it any less, because I like 2nd place even more. This one, again, is good for world building, because we get to world build, this time, the northern parts of the world, and the deep parts of the world. So, I think that if the whole thing was as good as the, like, parts underground, it might be second place still. But again, 2nd place also has all 3 of the top 3. The longer they go on, the better they get. This one, it just has a good adventure from the start, but then it introduces the Marshwiggles, which I thought were really cool. I found them cooler now. When I was younger, I found them cooler than I do now, because I interpreted he was the same color as the marsh line, and meaning they had green skin. I thought that was really cool. Now I more realize that was just because clothes were like brown and green and stuff. But I used to think Marshwiggles had green skin due to the line he was the same color as the marsh. I don't know why I interpreted it as that. The marshes aren't even that green; they're more brown green, but whatever. And yeah, so we get a lot of to see what it's like up north of Narnia. And then we get to go the two reveals in the Harfang, where like they're eating the talking fawn, the talking stag, and then we find out that they're gonna eat the humans, and I like all the foreshadowing before that, of like a confusing like what's gonna happen? Why are they sorry for us? What's this about? And then we find out, oh, that's because they're gonna eat us. They go underground, and then we get another creature that I thought was really cool, which was the Earthmen, because they were so different. I thought it was really cool. Like, then we go underground. The Deep Realm, that place was, for some reason, so cool to me. It just seems so cool. There's somewhere far in the north of Narnia, deep underground, there's this little forest of mushroom trees. Like, what other stuff is there that we don't know about? Does anyone live in that forest of mushroom trees other than the creatures that sleep in it? I don't know. That place is just really cool. We don't see it much in the BBC adaptation, though what we do see, with a little bit of the, like, mushroom stuff, it probably, that little shot, it's probably having a really bad quality shot. That might be my favorite shot in all of the BBC Narnia, maybe even all of the Disney Narnias. That shot is so cool. Maybe not all my favorite shot in all of it. My favorite shot, definitely, but not my favorite scene, but it just looks so cool. That might be one of the best props the BBC series did. The Deep Realm was such a cool idea. Seeing the Father Time, that part was cool. The Sunless Sea and the city under the ground. I always love getting ideas of what it's like for people living in weird places that we wouldn't expect. And the underground city is just great for that part of me. I wonder what it would like to be living in an underground city, like, aside from the fact that it was sad because the witch's rule made everyone sad, but, like, if it wasn't for that, what is this place like? You have this huge sunless sea. What kind of fish live in there? What is it like? And then we get the biggest part of all, Bizin. Thousands of feet under the ground. This land full of fire rivers and rubies that are fruit. I don't know what else is down there, but it sounds like a really cool place. And while of course I'm sure it's not true, if the ending of the last battle has anything to say, and we can go to Narnia after heaven, then I would most certainly go to visit all of these places. And they'll include, because the thing if I could go to Narnia, the main thing I would do is I would explore not only those places that we don't talk about. I would go not only north, this far north, not only to Bism and stuff if I could go there, I might not be able to. But I'll go to the northern end of the world. I'll go to the southern end of the world, see what's beyond Calormen. I would go to the western wilds, into Telmar. So if you don't really know that much about, what's Telmar. All the southwest and northwest lands that we don't know that much about will be really interesting. Part of the Western Sea, so we can see what's on the western end of the world, possibly. Still probably a sea. But then we get what's probably the most magical part that we know about, and part that makes we almost wish that we had a flat Earth. But even if it wouldn't be as cool as quite as magical as this end of the world, the eastern end of the world, portrayed in The Voyage of the Dawn Treasure, my second favorite one. It's just so cool, like, going off to the eastern end of the world, all these unexplored islands nobody knew about. They just wonder what other islands were in that sea that they didn't get to. And not all of them have to be important, like they landed on Burnt Island. It was important to the story because they got, like, Coracle, but nothing much happened there. Dragon Island was cool with the forests and, like, the valleys and the dragons. There was just all these random little islands with the Dufflepuds, and we got Ramandu's Island. The Dark Island was kind of mysterious, kind of underused in my opinion. So even though it made for a terrible adaptation, I like the Voyage of the Dawn Treasure Disney movie just because I did like what having the Dark Island actually do more. And though I do kind of wish that the nightmares, the dreams that came true, actually came true and they weren't just imagining it, and maybe they could even have some kind of encounter with them. I'm going to mention the sea serpent, which was what they did for that in the Disney movie. But the sea serpent was cool. Well, I like how this one has the picture, but you can't really see it. And you can see it better now. Yeah, you can see it there. And so it's just a really cool one because you see the adventures in the eastern end of the world. And once we get to the very end, we have the mermaid's lair. It's so cool to think of someone that lives underground in the very, very eastern end of the world. We have the lake. We have that sea at the very end. We're just full of lilies, and then this land at the very, very edge of the world with a wave going up at the very end. This little super flat land that probably no one's ever walked on. Maybe no one ever would again. Probably not much is on there, but it's just this little flat land at the very edge of the world. Who knows if there's anything in the ground or what it's there? I just know this is a very flat land at the very end of the world, and there's just so much magic and mystery to this book, and it's great. But so my favorite is the last battle. This one's hard to explain as far as other movies. This is a very different tone to the others. Honestly, the Word Art Cheddar might actually be my favorite. I'm not sure. Because this one definitely has the most problems in my opinion. It can drag on a little bit. Sometimes it can seem kind of racist with some of the stuff that they do with the Calormenes. And while I don't find this part that bad because it's just a disguise, if I want to make a movie about it, it'd be kind of hard with the dude that Calormene disguises because that's practically blackface and wouldn't slide very well in a modern movie, you know? I don't have a problem with it because I know they're just trying to do new disguises. Though I don't like the remark of where he washes it off the skin and says, like, I feel like a mannequin. Like, what? Like, this book seems kind of racist in some parts, which I don't really like that much. And at the very end, it's like where Aslan's like talking to Emmett about how, like, I get the point he's making is more that Emmett never knew any god other than Tosh. He only heard of Aslan as something horrible to be avoided. He would have no idea, so he was just serving the only god he knew, which was Tosh. But really, he was serving. I get what he was saying with that, but I feel like the way he wrote it makes it more seem like he was almost saying, "Oh, serve." It makes it almost seem like he was saying, "Serve any god you want," which is not true in real life, you know. Again, I get what he was saying. I just feel like he could have written better. But aside from that, yeah, the Witcher tried to be my favorite. I'm not sure, but this one just had so much. Like, this one had so much action. It just had the darkest, grittiest tone to it, and it was really cool seeing seeing Narnia really be in really big trouble. We've seen it in big trouble before, but it was never quite as serious. We never saw quite as much damage going on. Something I said before, not on a channel, but like to other people, is that in the story, if you don't have really sad, horrible things going on in a story, then the victory at the end won't seem as important. It won't matter that much that you defeated the bad guys if nothing bad was happening when they weren't defeated. Because if your life is good, if your life is overall pretty good, even when the bad guys are ruling, then what does it matter if they're not? Your life is good anyway. However, if your life is horrible, people are dying in horrible ways, then it's gonna matter that the bad guys get defeated. It's gonna matter because your life is gonna go much better after that. Speaking of the ending victory, that is purely the reason why Last Battle is my favorite Narnia book. The ending is amazing. Everything after the it starts better after the chapter, who will go into the stable, and then everything is all perfect after the chapter, fittingly enough titled "The Pace Quickens." And then we get to the final, the ending Narnia. It's so cool, and then it's just such a happy ending where they go into the Western Wilds, into where the hill that Diggory found the apple from, which is the nephew. We see all the people that had died. We see Reaper-Sheep and all that. Lucy gets to reunite with Tumnus. They get to reunite with Fledge. Tyrion gets to reunite with his dad. Um, well, the Pepsi gets right out with Narnia. Um, and then you know how it's saying that like it just doesn't like a cool place to be able to run that fast, and it gets the like as you see their parents again, they can still go back to England, but England will be perfect again. They can go back and forth whenever they want. They get to see Frank and Helen, who from the very beginning of the Narnian world, and then they get to start talking to Aslan, but then he starts changing. He starts not looking like a lion anymore. But the second hint, the second real but again, I think the main hint is just avoiding John Fetter. You get pretty much the biggest the closest we have to a straight up confirmation that Aslan is Jesus in the books, where he says, as just Narnia's, well, how he appears in Narnia, which says, yeah, you can find me in your world too, but there I have another name. Yeah, so, and then the ending, it just seems so glorious and magical and so awesome that, and the Nightfalls of Narnia chapter 2 was also really amazing, where the Narnia is destroyed, and then they all get to go to the better Narnia, and like I was saying, it's fittingly not, and the ending, I like how the ending doesn't quite explain that much, but it explains enough for you to understand what's going on, because it fits, because it's not like that's a place you'd be able to really explain that much. Well, all he says is, they were now beginning chapter 1 of the great story, which no one has ever read, and which every chapter is better than the last. But the things that happen there are too wonderful for me to describe. He described enough that we can get a picture of what's going on, but not enough that, you can't really describe it, because you can't, it's indescribable, it's too wonderful to describe. As someone who really looks forward to heaven, this book was great. The ending was just such a nice ending, and the beginning parts are fittingly dark for how happy the ending is. Plus, I forgot to mention that Tasha in this was really scary, and the council and the evil genius of a lot of the council, especially when they ruined their plan of showing off puzzle. It was just great. This is a great book. Maybe the Voyage of the Treasure was better. I'm not sure. But all I know is that they're both amazing books, and that's my ranking.